This is the one thing that the ancient masters were taught that completely transformed their entire reality. This will actually be very, very useful on your journey to creating reality in the way that you want, because the truth of the matter is it's not going to be easy. Now, that is a belief in of itself, but to convey the main topic of what we're going to be discussing today, it is one, the esoteric explanation of what it means to truly be delusional, how to bypass the ego, the logic, the how, the when, the waiting for it. We're going to talk about how to bypass that today, as written thousands of years ago, as were taught to the ancient masters. Now, I'm going to take you to John 21:6. Once again, I am not a religious individual. Probably far from religious entirely. No. I have a Quran, I have a Bhagavad Gita, I have a Torah, I have a Talmud, I have a Bible, I have the Nag Hammadi text, I have an Apocrypha. I am simply a student of wisdom, and anywhere that I can find wisdom to utilize for self-mastery and control over reality, that's where I come in. So, John 21:6. Now, to give you the context of this particular verse, Jesus and the disciples, the 12 disciples, which represent the 12 disciplines of you disciplining the lower aspects of yourself. Thomas, for example, representing doubt. When you're able to overcome these 12 lower natures of yourself, then you can then follow the Christ level of consciousness. But anyways, the context of this particular story, Jesus had taken the disciples fishing. Now, they're on the boat in the sea. The disciples, fish, right? So the disciples cast their nets to the left side of the boat, and they had no fish, none. The moment that they threw their nets to the left side, there was no fish. They pulled it up, it was empty. They were like, damn, what's going on here? But, and I'll put L here to represent the left side of the boat, but the moment the disciples saw that their nets were empty, Jesus Christ, the highest level of consciousness, the unity, as it says in Philippians 2:5-6, let this mind of Christ be in within you, who didn't find it robbery to be equal with God. What Christ said to them in John 21:6 is, cast your nets to the right side of the boat. And what happened was, when the disciples threw their nets to the right side of the boat, they had so many fish that they couldn't even pull in the net. As simplistic as this sounds, well, why is the fish, on the right side but not on the left side? What this story is truly representing to you is something deep and esoteric, which is two natures that are within you. You are the boat. Your mind is the boat. Whenever we attempt to cast our net to the left side, we never really get what it is we want. And the issue is, I'm going to talk about what the left side represents here so you truly have a full understanding, and also how to bypass it so you can actually begin to pull in the net of whatever it is that you're trying to materialize. The net just represents you casting out a frequency for you to reel in, pull back up with your net to materialize down into the physical plane that we call reality. Now, it's important for you to understand, like I said, and forgive my drawing, I've never been an artist. I'm an artist with my words, I guess. This is the boat. You can just imagine it on a bird's eye view level, right? The left side is where the disciples first casted their nets, where there was no fish. What the left side is truly referencing, esoterically by the way, is the left hemisphere of the brain. And the left hemisphere of the brain is what we would call the logical, the rational, the make sense part of the brain. And essentially, what this story is esoterically representing is the fact that anytime you attempt to be logical, rational, or go from a place of sense, you will never materialize what it is that you want. And the way that you can conceptualize this is, think about any time you've had a particular desire that you want to materialize. And this happened with, one of my clients, Mr. Opulent. He, for a period of time, was saying to me, how's this going to happen? How's this going to happen? And this is the process I actually took him through. And he was stuck at 2 million for 7 years, and he secured a contract of 10.8 million for his medical company in just 5 weeks of understanding what I'm about to say. Now, if you're an entrepreneur that's done with grinding and you're interested in 2xing or 5xing your revenue in like 7 weeks or less, then check out the link in the description and I shall show you the Awaken Entrepreneur frequency. But anytime that you attempt to be logical or rational when it comes to your desired reality, you're always going to hear a couple of things in your head. You're always going to hear, stop lying. Come on. I know you're broke. You're not really rich. These things that you try to tell yourself. You're going to hear stop lying. You're going to hear how. You're going to hear when. And you're going to be looking for one thing, and that one thing is evidence. So long as you stay on this side, casting your net to the left, it ain't gonna happen, chief. You're not gonna materialize what you want, just to be real with you. And this is one of the biggest hurdles that people come into when they attempt to materialize their reality. Unfortunately, the left part of their brain wins. Now, what does the right side of the boat represent? It represents plenty. It represents attainment. Of your particular desire. Now, the right hemisphere of the brain, this is where the real Christ is. Where was Christ crucified? He was crucified in the east. Pull up a compass, see which direction east points to. It points to the right. Where was Christ resurrected? In the east. Where do you awaken the Christ within? In the east, the right hemisphere of the brain. The right hemisphere of the brain is the aspect of you that is spiritual, emotional, and would be considered by everyone around you delusional. Now, the disciples were taught, which are representing ancient masters, because like I said, 12 disciples, 12 disciplines of the lower self, which once they are disciplined, they are able to follow Christ. Go read the stories of each of the disciples. They had an aspect of their lower self to then conquer, whether courage, whether faith, whether doubt. And once they conquered these things, they were then able to follow the Christ, the higher nature. Once again, these are all esoteric representations of what happens within you. Now, understanding that delusion being the last one, it gets a bad rep, right? Because unfortunately, this is what the ancient masters were taught on how to materialize whatever it is that they want. And until you, my friend, whoever you are watching this, can go from this side to this side, you're not going to materialize what you want, because in order for you to materialize what you want, you're going to have to give up the logical. You're going to have to give up the rational. You're going to have to give up shit making sense. You're going to have to. So if you can't do that, kindly leave this video. Probably also unsubscribe, because it's just not going to work out between me and you, and I'd rather neither of our times are wasted. But if you can, and if you're willing to give up these things, and to also give up the how, the when, the looking for evidence, then our journey through getting you to activating the right hemisphere of your brain will be very easy. And so materializing your desired reality will also be very easy. I do this for a living. I'm literally hired by elite entrepreneurs to do this, so best believe I know what I'm talking about. Now, it's important that we actually redefine a couple of things, because the way that you label things, the labels that you use to describe your reality actually mold your reality. Your definitions of things is always followed through by energy. That energy is used to then build the world that you live in, because despite you living in the same planet as me, You don't live in the same world as me. There's one earth, 8 billion worlds. And the world that you live in is also going to be determined by your level of consciousness and the frequency that you're on. If somebody's telling you there's no opportunities around and they're trying to do better, but it's just not working for them, that is what they're materializing and projecting into their reality. So they are right. And if you believe there are opportunities everywhere and you come across these opportunities and you materialize them into your reality, then you are also right. Nobody is right, nobody's wrong. This is why in the Hermetic tradition, one of the most prolific sayings for the law of polarity, one of the axioms for the law of polarity, is actually all truths are half truths. That's straight out the Kabbalion. If you haven't got that, I suggest you read it. Out of the nearly 400 books I've read on spirituality, it is definitely top 5. I will probably do a top book list soon, because there's a lot of nonsense, there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of corny, new agey woo-woo, and I'm not into all of that. Now, going back to what I was saying about delusion, I actually keep this up because it's quite useful. Delusion is how it will be defined by people who aren't on your frequency. Now, I'm not saying jump off a building and think that you'll survive, because there's a difference between self-imposed limits and actual limits. For the most part, what people deem to be delusional are the self-imposed limits of what they're able to actually achieve. So it makes sense that we start off by saying, before defining what delusion is, it's important we actually define what it means to make sense. Now, when we talk about making sense, when we talk about logic, when we talk about being a rational, logical person, what we're really talking about is a fraction of the entirety of reality. Now, unfortunately, due to the way our egos are constructed, we can only see 0.035% of the entirety of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, visible light is a tiny fraction, which is what allows you to see. The only reason you see something is through a process called refraction. Light is bouncing off these surfaces and going into your eyes. Your eyes are then taking those electrical signals, and then your brain is producing an image on what it thinks it is seeing. You don't see with your eyes. Your eyes just take electrical signals and then send those to your brain. Now, this is reality. So everything that you call reality, everything that you allow to worry you, everything that you allow to stress you, everything that you allow to get you down, is actually from a small fraction of a picture that is so big. And this is probably way more than 0.0035%, but you get the point that I'm making here. However, if we can only see 0.0035% of what actually exists, then that means that what is seen is what we call reality. And if what is seen is I don't think that's dry, but here, if what is seen is a small fraction of reality, then that would mean that there is 99.99 That means there is 99.965% of what is considered the unseen, which means there is more unseen. And they talk about this in the Kabbalistic traditions. For those of you that are unaware what that means, it's just Jewish metaphysics. They believe, they call it, we live in the world of the 1%, but really and truly, this is what it is. So there is more of the unseen than there is of what is the seen. So then, my question to those of you who have these dreams that you want to materialize, and you may conversate about those dreams, which you shouldn't anyways, because you're not on the same frequency, they're not going to be able to comprehend you anyways when you have a particular goal. What often happens is that these people will come and say, that's delusion. It's delusional for you want to materialize a certain level in your business. It's delusional for you to want to materialize this certain life for yourself. That's delusional. But what these people are referring to as the opposite of delusional, which is logical, rational, and sense, is only 0.0035% of what actually exists. So who is really delusional? Those that allow their potentiality to be defined by 0.0035%, or those who align with the 99.9965%. Now, having said that, really and truly, you're not delusional. Because even to characterize it as delusional is still technically not true. What you actually are is aligning with the aspect of yourself that is closest to your God self, closest to the highest level of consciousness, closest to the Christos energy or the Christ consciousness energy of John 21:6, which states that cast your net to the right side of the boat and you will pull in a multitude of fish. But it doesn't just stop there esoterically when we're looking at these different scriptures. It's considered across many traditions, even in the Quran I've read, and in the Bible, that there is this sense of reverence and devotion to either the right hand of God, the right side of God, right side of the throne. And it's believed in the Bible that Jesus sits on the right side of the Father. Why the right side? Because it is the right side that is the spiritual. It is the right side that is emotional. It is the right side that appears to be delusional, but it's not really delusion. It's actually an alignment with the highest level of truth, which is the fact that everything that you're seeing around you is nothing more than a tiny fraction of an entire picture. You are seeing a scene out of a film that is way too long for us to even conceive. And you're looking at that particular scene and basing everything that you feel, everything that you believe, everything that you can become based upon that one scene, as opposed to being able to immerse yourself in the entire film. That is why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, because what Christ represents is that aspect of you which is able to utilize his consciousness to align to the highest levels, to materialize reality in the way that is wanted. And this is what the ancient masters were taught. They were taught to cast to the right side. So in these moments where you feel doubt, in these moments where your mind is thinking, how, when, what this really and truly is a battle between the left hemisphere of your brain and the right hemisphere of your brain. This is a battle between the devil and God. And the only way to utilize the right hemisphere of your brain is to keep doing what you're already doing. Except one thing. Don't let the world gaslight you into being logical. As I said, when you have these things that you want to materialize, these things that you want to accomplish, those around you, because they're not on your frequency, it's almost like somebody who only speaks Zulu, only speaking to somebody who speaks Mandarin. They're not going to understand each other. And the moment that you try to be understood by somebody, you are lowering your frequency and allowing them to minimize the light that is within you that you're trying to materialize. So don't let the world gaslight you into being logical. When you have this thing that you want to materialize, it's actually, and it's like that Steve Jobs quote. I think he says, those that change the world are crazy enough to actually believe that they can, which is a testimony of that. You're going to be called crazy. You're going to be called delusional. So you're better off really and truly keeping your desired reality to yourself until it is protected enough to materialize, because the seed is yours to water and not anybody else's. And we don't want people pouring, Kool-Aid or Hennessy over your plant. That's not what we want. Even though we don't mind some Hennessy now. Whenever your mind attempts to rationalize whatever it is that you want to materialize, it's going to come up in a couple ways. Your mind is either going to think how, it's either going to think when, or it's going to try and look for evidence. And you need to know how to be able to deal with these things when they pop up, because if you don't, you will unfortunately fall to the left side of the boat, the left hemisphere, the side of the devil, the temptation. Look, when you see these devils and angels on the shoulders in these cartoons and what they're representing. They're representing the dual energies that exist within you, that are part of you, that mold the way that you begin to see the world around you. This is why Jesus and the devil are one. This is why in Revelation 22:16, Jesus identifies as Lucifer when he says, I am the off star, the morning star. Now, if you look at the definition of Lucifer, now, with that being said, sorry to sidetrack there, it happens every now and again. Like I said, your mind is either going to think how, it's either going to think when, or it's going to go and look for evidence. All of these things, whenever you catch yourself thinking how, whenever you catch yourself thinking when, whenever you catch yourself looking for evidence, this means that you have not truly shifted your state of consciousness internally, because it wouldn't be able to have this level of power over you. So anytime that you catch yourself thinking how, these are the things that I want you to mentally declare. Now, I don't say affirmations because unfortunately, affirmations don't work for most people, because technically, more likely based upon the world that we live in the West. So the left hemisphere of your brain is predominantly used here. You can't read, it's not like the East. In the East, they talk in metaphors. They operate by spirituality first. But in the West, whether you're in the UK, Europe, or America, we're very logical people. And because of that, that means the left hemisphere of your brain is stronger. So when these things pop up and you're trying to do affirmations of, I'm the richest person ever, but you're broke, your mind is going to tell you that you're lying. You're going to feel like you're lying. And what that really truly is reiterating the consciousness that you're already in, which is poverty, which isn't going to work out for you. Now, whenever you catch yourself thinking how, these are the mental declarations that I want you to calmly say. You can't fight negative thoughts. Don't try to fight negative thoughts. So when you try to fight negative thoughts, what you're doing without realizing is holding on to them. Even though you're trying to pull away, you're still holding on. And the more that you try to resist them, the more that they persist. The more you try to resist, the more they persist. So calmly declare, not tell yourself, declare with a certain level of authority, understanding that you are the one that runs your mind, not it. Mentally declare when your mind thinks how. Nope. Now I gotta wrap this up because I got a barbecue to get to. So sorry for all the spiritual niggas. Now, how? It's not for me to worry. And it's not. Because unfortunately, your mind is finite. But the creator's mind that is also within you is infinite. So you can't conceive of the multitude of ways that your desired reality can be materialized. So anytime that you catch yourself thinking, how's it going to happen? Just say, it's not for me to worry about. Mentally declare it calmly, it's not for me to worry about. And the more that you do this, the more you're actually going to quiet those thoughts. The more you're going to be utilizing the right hemisphere of your brain to take over the left hemisphere of the brain, to wake up the Christ that was crucified in the East. Now, when your mind says when, what this means is that you have the wrong definition of manifestation. Please tell me your definition of manifestation. Just say it to yourself while you're watching this. Your shit's probably like, oh, to change reality, to control reality with my thoughts, to transform reality with my mind. And that is completely wrong. Now, most people have the incorrect definition of manifestation, so I'll give you one that I normally only give to my clients because I like you. Now, the true definition of manifestation is this. That definition alone will save you 8 years and reading nearly 400 books, spending probably close to 6 figures. That's what I did on finding all this stuff out. Now, the true definition of manifestation is internally shifting to a point where you are no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. To simplify it, when you're good with it and when you're good without it. And if you're catching yourself thinking, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? That means you're not at a point where you've shifted to a point where you're good with it and you're good without it. So what that means is that you need to solidify your conviction in what it actually is that you're trying to materialize. So it's not a problem of logic. It's a problem of you not properly having shifted into the state of consciousness that is resonant with the reality that you want. You're not tuned into the radio frequency of your desired reality. And we can tell that because you're thinking when. And if you're waiting for it, that means you don't understand what your desire is. Your desire is just a middleman. A middleman for emotions that you are currently not feeling that you want to experience. That's all your desire is. If you couldn't do anything with your desire, if your desire was worthless, if it had no meaning, you wouldn't want it anymore. And the only reason you want it is because upon attaining it, you're going to feel a way that you're currently not feeling right now. And that is the only reason you'll ever want anything. And when you understand that, you can bypass having to wait to get your desire, to feel those emotions, by giving yourself permission to actually feel the way you'd feel now upon attaining it. The issue is you're not giving yourself permission because you don't think you deserve it, because you think it's about getting that thing. That thing is just a midpoint for the end of the journey, which is really and truly you feeling completely different. Evidence is reliant on, I got all these pens in my pocket. You think I'm pushing pens, pushing P. Anyways, evidence is reliant on confidence. And, well, confidence is reliant on evidence. They have some type of interdependent relationship. You know, if you want to feel more confident, then you need to have more evidence. And the more confidence you have, the more evidence you will see in your reality of whatever it is that you want to get. Now, if you catch yourself looking for evidence, that means you don't truly have a level of confidence that is reflective of where it is that you need to be. So really and truly, you know, how is the only thing that can be sorted out mentally. This requires for you to completely change your definition of manifestation and truly understand and allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel the emotions for what you want now. You don't think that you deserve to feel safe, secure, happy, peaceful because you ain't got 100K or a particular type of person or a deal close or a 10K a month. But you do, and you can feel that if you give yourself permission to. And when you catch yourself looking for evidence, this is basically when they're basically the same thing. So the definition that I give here is also applicable to this. And this is what the ancient masters knew. They knew John 21:6, cast the net to the right side of the boat and you're pulling a multitude of fish. But you need to be willing to give up all of these things and to deny them, so you can sit by the right hand of God, the right hemisphere of the brain. So with that being said, yeah, appreciate you guys for watching. Catch you later.